Hey guys, welcome to another video. I'm Chris, and today we're going to talk about why this 7.3 liter gas Godzilla F250 can pull this 11 to 12,000 pound fifth wheel trailer, and the 6.7 liter diesel just can't do it. So, and we'll go over some other misconceptions, so stick around and check it out. All right guys, so we're gonna do a little explaining here. I'm just really surprised at how many people I come across that because they have a diesel, they have the mentality of, well, it's a diesel, I can tow anything I want. And that's not exactly true. All right, we're gonna roll this back just a little bit, and we're gonna start this out by where I kind of came up with this video idea. Well, I would go online and I was kind of doing like somewhat of an unofficial survey of how people perceived their gas and diesel trucks and what they were towing. And so I went online and people would post their fifth wheel RV, and they say, okay, I got this 2500 or this F250 and it's a diesel. I would ask them, okay, ask them, well, what's your payload? And almost every single time I would ask, I would get the response, oh, 17,000 pounds, 20,000 pounds. That's not your payload. They're either ignorant, don't have an understanding of what payload is, or they don't care. And they only care about tow ratings. And that's where it gets kind of dangerous, because if that's all you're paying attention to, there's several different numbers you need to know. There's your gross vehicle weight rating. There's your payload capacity. There is your gross combined vehicle weight rating and your tow rating. And those are all different numbers, but they all kind of work together, and some of them are going to limit out way faster than others. Like, I guarantee you're going to, especially with a fifth wheel hitch, you are going to limit out on your gross vehicle weight rating way before you probably get your tow rating or your gross combined vehicle weight rating. Especially, this is really kind of dealing with the 3/4 tons. Most 1 tons have plenty, and most 3/4 tons are about 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating. There are some that have more than that, and there are some that have less. So there's some that have like 9,900. I've seen 3/4 tons with all the way up to like 11,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating. But typically, usually 3/4 tons are about 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating. This F250 behind me has a 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating. And going back to, like I was saying, I was asking people, well, how do you know if you can tow that safely? And they're like, well, I just know. It does just fine. It feels fine. There's more to it than just it feels fine. The numbers matter at a legal standpoint and a liability standpoint, and just a safety. And it seems like most people just do not care about their gross vehicle weight rating, payload capacity, especially dealing with fifth wheel hitches, because about 20% of the weight of the trailer is on the tongue, and that's pressing down on your vehicle. That takes away from your payload as to your gross vehicle weight. So what exactly is payload? Payload is your curb weight, basically what your vehicle drove off the factory floor with, how much the vehicle weighed right then and there. And then you subtract that from your gross vehicle weight rating, and then whatever's left over, that's your payload capacity. That's how much you can put on that truck, still be within legal limits, because you're supposed to stay legally under that gross vehicle weight rating. And like I said, I was surveying quite a few people online, and they seem to have no idea what payload capacity was, especially with the diesels. And the big thing about the diesels is they weigh more than gas engines, and those things weigh sometimes 600-700 pounds more than a gasoline engine. And that's kind of how we're going to get to why this F250 7.3 liter can tow this and a diesel cannot. This F250 is 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating, but it has a 3,082 pounds of payload capacity. So that means it just weighs about 7,000 pounds straight off the factory floor. So I have a 3,000 pounds to put people, stuff, cup of coffee, anything, whatever weight you put onto that vehicle takes away from that payload capacity. And like, I did a whole nother video about this before, about like, people adding leaf springs or timber ends or air shocks. All those stuff takes away from your payload capacity. It does not add to it. There's only one way that you can change you add payload capacity, is if you have your vehicle recertified And that's a kind of a tricky situation too. There's only certain people that can do it, and you have to go through a lot of red tape with the government and yada yada, but it's just a hot mess, and it's not impossible, but it can be done. But you yourself can't do it unless you're one of those certified technicians who are approved to change gross vehicle weight ratings. So this trailer is about 11 to 12,000 pounds, and the tongue weight on this thing is about 2,000 pounds, give or take a little bit, just depending on how it's loaded. Like if the freshwater tank that's all the way in the back is full and the black and gray tanks are empty, then it's going to have a little less tongue weight. Let's say the freshwater tank is empty and the black and gray tanks are full, it's going to have a little more tongue weight. You know, and if I load up the bottom of the undercarriage here with a bunch of heavy stuff, it's going to have more tongue weight. We're just averaging about 2,000 pounds, let's say. And I have to take that 2,000 pounds away from that 3,082 pounds, my payload capacity. So now I'm left with 1,082 pounds. I added a Kurt gooseneck turnover ball and a Blue Ox fifth wheel hitch adapter in there. So those things combined that's about 300 pounds. So I'm left with 782 pounds left for me, my dogs, and a little bit of gear, and a few extra pounds for extra tongue weight that I might need. And let's say I had a diesel in the exact same truck, but with a diesel, it would be, you'd have to take about 600 to 700 pounds away from that. So let's go on the light side and just say 600 pounds. We got 2,000 pounds tongue weight. We got another 300 pounds of the two hitches that I put in there. So that leaves with 700 pounds left. And then if it was a diesel, I would lose about 600 more pounds. So that would only leave me basically 182 pounds for me, my wife, and my dogs. And that's not enough. I wouldn't be able to legally tow this trailer with that. And a lot of these other trucks that you see out there, diesels, 3/4 tons, pulling 36-foot plus fifth wheels, most of them have to be over payload unless they have a higher gross vehicle weight rating. Which it's entirely possible. I'm not saying they don't, but a lot of times it's just people just don't know. Look into yourself and figure out what your numbers are. And that's why I'm kind of making this video, is just to put out awareness out there that there's a bunch of different numbers and they kind of matter, especially from a legal standpoint. Yes, could a 6.7 liter diesel tow this? Absolutely. It's got plenty of power, but legally it can't, because we would be way over payload. As soon as I stepped into the truck, I weigh over 200 pounds. So yeah, I know it's hard to believe, but as soon as I step in that truck, we are over gross vehicle weight rating in my truck. So, you know, that's why we kind of were limited. Like when we first started looking for RVs, we were actually just looking at travel trailers. And that's why I got the 3/4 ton, because the travel trailers only have about at 10% of the trailer weight as tongue weight. And these are double with the fifth wheels. So I didn't really need it. So then when we finally changed over and decided to get a fifth wheel, I'm like, well, we have to stay within our legal gross vehicle weight rating. It would just not sit right with us. I know other people do it, but we're just trying to stay within legal bounds to the best of our abilities. And so far, this thing has had, you know, even though it's a gas, you know, it may use a little more fuel, but it seems to pull it just fine. It does not hurt for power at all. And the braking is the same for the F-250 and F-350. The 3/4 ton and the 1 tons have the exact same brakes. If you go on the Ford website, you look at the part numbers and they're their exact same. So the braking's fine. It's just like, you know, they don't have as much springs. The wheels and tires may not be rated for as much weight. So even though if you take my rear axle and my front axle weight rating, it's over 10,000 pounds. It's almost 10,000, like 800 pounds. It's like, I think that's 4,400 pounds in the front and like 6,600 pounds, almost 11,000 pounds of capacity, it says. But the truck itself is only rated for 10,000 pounds. Even though the numbers don't quite add up, you have to kind of go by what's on that sticker inside your door jamb. But I just want to make sure everybody's aware that there are limits, even though, especially like even in towing, like if you were going to pick a truck for its tow capacity, you can't just go by the advertisements. Each one of these vehicles has a different tow rating depending on the gearing, depending on the engine and the transmission and everything. You have to go on each, like Chevy, Dodge, or Ford's websites and find out for your specific vehicle. There's not one general number. And especially the same thing with payload capacity. You cannot look up payload capacity on the websites because they're just going to give you the most generic, highest one that's possible. And that doesn't mean that your truck is configured for that weight rating. Yours, every truck is different. If one has bucket seats and one has a full bench seat, your weight's going to be different. So all those little things add up. So you got to do that information and look in for yourself to make sure the vehicle, especially if you're looking to go buy a tow vehicle, make sure you open up that door jamb and check out the numbers on it and see what the payload capacity is, and then go online and find out exactly what the tow numbers are for that vehicle. For those, find out what the gears are, find out the transmission is, and make sure you know what those numbers are, and they're going to be a good fit for whatever you're going to tow. Or if you already have a truck, look at those numbers and then find the RV like we did that fits within your numbers. So hopefully this is helpful and you got something out of it. So that's why the diesel cannot tow this fifth wheel. We didn't actually plan it this way, it just kind of happened, and we did get the fifth wheel, and so far we're loving it. Like I said, my name's Chris, and we do trucks, travel, towing, RV life full time. So if that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, all that fancy mess, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.